Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. Welcome to my Mini-Mandala series. In these videos, I show you how to make beautiful little mandalas using just a few simple tools. All you really need is something to write with and something to write on. Now, I do have a few extra things. I have my micron pen. PN just means plastic nib. I have a little pencil to do some drawing and some shading, and I have a blending tool. This is called a tortillon. I have my coin for the center of my mandala, and then I have a piece of scrap paper. I do my work in a little 5-inch by 5-inch sketchbook. It's nothing special, but it is nice and small for these smaller mandalas. Okay, we're going to begin by picking up our pen and tracing our coin onto our paper. Sometimes we start with pencil and sometimes we go ahead and start with the pen. Okay, there's the center of our mandala. And now we're going to take the pencil and draw a grid. So to draw this grid, I put a line across the center and then I extend it out. I do this nice and lightly with my pencil. And then I do one vertically. And again, I extend those out. You can adjust them as needed. They're in pencil, so they're erasable. Okay, for this next part, I'm going to pick up my little scrap paper. A little large. And I'm going to set it at the top of my circle. And I'm going to make a mark, let's say about maybe 2.5 pencil widths. 1, 2, and a little bit more. And I make the mark on the scrap paper and onto my line. I'm going to do the same thing this way. I start at the outer edge of the circle, and I just mark that little dash. I'm going to go ahead and do it on all 4 sides like that, and set that aside. Okay, so typically we would make another circle, but today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to connect these with a straight line. Look at that. Okay, that looks so cool. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my pen for a little bit. So pick up my pen. I already have that circle outlined. And for the center today, we're just going to do a nice, pretty little spiral. So I'm going to begin at the top of that circle. And I'm just going to come down and around. And then continue in towards the middle. And end with a little like teardrop shape. You're welcome to do anything you want in the middle. You could put a word in the middle. You could draw a sunshine or a heart, or maybe make it a gem. There's lots of options, but I just wanted to do something simple today. Okay, we're going to put in some petals around the outside of this. And to do this, I'm going to start with my lines and put in my tallest petals. So I'm going to go from this side up and around to the other side of that line. So I'm going to go up, touch the top, and come down. It's wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. Wide at the top, narrower at the bottom. Once I get those 4 in, I'm going to do the center of each of these, and I'm going to leave room for one on both sides. So I'm going to do the center. I go narrow at the bottom, a little bit wider at the top. And I left room to add in these last ones, and I'm just making sure I go all the way to that outer line and then come down. I like working from the center of a section just because it keeps things a little more even. I love that. I'm going to go ahead and thicken this circular line. There we go. And then I'm going to ink in these outer straight lines. That looks so cool. And then I'm also going to take a moment to ink in these areas in between. I do this often on my tangles or my mandalas. I just like the dark areas. It adds that drama. And if I don't have to think too hard about the next line I'm drawing, I can just take a moment, color it in, let my brain relax a little bit. These are always beautiful in color as well. I just prefer to work in black and white. Once I introduce color, I overthink it. I worry about my colors matching or not matching. So I just enjoy the black and white. Look at how nice that looks with that dark edge. It looks so good. Okay, now I'm going to add an aura, which means I'm going to put a line around the outside. And you can make this as thin or as thick as you would like. Mine seem to be changing in size as I go. I'm just going to leave that empty for right now. Okay, now I'm going to pick up my pencil again. So for this next part, I'm going to create another circle. And this sounds a little bit strange, but to do that, I'm actually going to draw a square first. So I'm going to put a line across the top, just nice and light so I can erase it later. Line across the bottom. and a line down each side. And now I'm going to jump from this corner to this corner, and I'm going to use this as my guide. Like that. And I'm doing it very lightly because I might go back and change part of it. So now I go from this corner to this corner. And the same thing down here. And here. And now when I step back, I can see this circle and I can see that it's not very even. So now I can go in and change it a little bit. Until I get a nice circle that I like. Isn't that fun, playing with the circles and the squares together? I love that. Okay, once I have that circle in, I'm going to add ink. And again, these do not have to be perfect. It's okay if they don't line up exactly. A little bit wiggly here and there, and that's okay. Okay, now I'm just going to take a minute to add in some stripes or some lines. And I like to start in the center of that section and then just work my way around. If you would rather put some other design in there, go ahead. But I've been enjoying just making straight lines lately. I think I've used it in a few mandalas. And I like the texture of it. I'm going a little fast. The slower I go, the more consistent I can be. But I'm kind of rushing right now, and I'm not sure why. Look at how pretty that looks. I'm not counting how many I put in. I'm not worried about these sides being even. I just want them to look similar, not the same. Almost done. There we go. Oh, it's going to look so pretty when it's shaded in. Okay. If you don't have that done yet, go ahead and pause the video and come back when you're ready. Now we're going to do our last layer, which is we're going to add another aura around the outside, and I'm going to make it probably a little bit thinner than the width of my pencil. So I'm going to go nice and slow because I'm certain I'm going to go too close and too far away. I don't want to worry much about it, but I just want to keep it as similar as I can all the way around. It's okay if it's a little wiggly. There we go. Okay, so for this border, I wanted to do something a little bit fun. I've got the spiral thing in the center, and I kind of wanted to do a little bit of that on the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here at the top, and I'm going to make some waves. And if you would like to do it in pencil first, you can. And I'm going to imagine, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go like up, down, up. I kind of have 2 bumps in each section. If I have more or less, it's okay. So I'm going to kind of go up, down, up, down. They're not ending up even at all. Just want them to connect and be sort of matched at the end. All right, I'm going to ink those in. Touching the top, then touching the bottom. I know this sounds easier than it actually is, but it's going to look so pretty, I promise. Oop, I forgot I already have that line going. Okay. It's got my little waves in there, and if you did more, wonderful. If you did less, wonderful. If you pick a completely different border, that's also wonderful. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath this bump right here. I'm going to follow that bump, and then at the middle, I'm going to curve and do a spiral. Then down here, I'm going to go at the bottom of the bump and come up and do a spiral. Is that making sense? Go up the curve and do a spiral, and down the curve and do a spiral. Up, down. See how we're bringing in that same element as we did in the beginning. Some of my spots are really wide and some are very narrow. No one's going to notice. So on that upwards curve, I come down. On that downward curve, I curl up. Down and back up. That's so pretty, I love it. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do before I shade is I'm just going to thicken this outer line a little bit. If you want, you can add a fun border. I'm just going to let mine end here, but I want to thicken it up to kind of bring back that dark center. It's easier to do if I turn my book, so I'm going to turn that just a little bit as I go. A little bit of thickening, I think, just finishes it off. I think it's worth the extra time and the extra effort. There we go. Oh, I love it. All right, I'm going to initial it and then we're going to do some shading. Oh, before I shade, I wanted to add something into these petals. So my go-to is a line and a dot. That's just typically what I do inside a petal. You go ahead and do whatever you want. You can trace the inside. I think that we did that on a mandala last week. You can add a dark area. You could add polka dots, anything you want. I'm just going to do my favorite, which is a line and a little circle. So often I make a mandala and I leave a lot of the spaces empty. I get the basic shapes in there and then I go back afterwards and add the tiny details. It's just how I like to work, but everyone does it differently. Okay. I'm also going to add in these little pencil lines we had on these. Okay, I'm going to pick up my pencil and do a little bit of shading. I'm going to go on the outside of that first big circle we made. And I take my blending tool and I push it out towards those petals. Look at how pretty that looks. I love it already. Okay, now I'm going to go into these lined areas and I'm going to put pencil right on this edge of the square and underneath that curve. Push this outward and push this one towards the center. We're always pushing away from the line where we put the graphite. Look at how pretty that looks. It looks so 3D compared to this one. So I go under that curve. And along the top of this line. I've got one more. Push that graphite towards the center. Towards the center of this area. Oh, it looks so pretty. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to do a little bit of shading on this outer edge. It's going to be so slight, but every time, let's see. Let's start at this very first one right here. I'm going to put some shadow around that outside edge of those spirals. Does that make sense? To the left of the spiral, left, left, left. That left side edge all the way around. And I'm just going to push that out a little bit. It's very subtle, but it just gives a little bit of a shadow. And then with my tortillon, this is my little paper blending tool, I'm going to put a little bit on the right side of this little line in each of those lines, just to give a little bit of a shadow, a little bit of dimension. And I'm also going to put a tiny bit at the top of these petals. I just don't like things looking too flat. And again, I'm not adding graphite, I'm just using the end of my blending tool that already has some of that graphite on there. There we go. It's so pretty. I love this one. That middle makes me think of just kind of the chaos in life, right? Just like all the stuff we have going on in life, and we're just constantly circling around our work, our personal lives, our hopes, our fears. And then I like this little blossom here that just makes me feel kind of calm. And then I like all of these little lines make me think of the things I have going on this week, and then the beauty that we find in each week. I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm getting out of the mandala this week. Anyway, as always, date your work, write a little journal entry. I hope that you loved it, and we'll see you next Monday. Have a wonderful week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.